What's going on, everybody? Welcome into the show. Happy Super Bowl Sunday to you guys. To celebrate the Super Bowl, we're going to actually be looking ahead towards the draft because if we want to get there in 2026, this is where it starts. So on today's show, we're going over my first mock draft. We're doing all 7 rounds. Can't wait to unfold it for you guys right here. If you guys haven't already, make sure to go ahead and hit that sub button. If you didn't know, we're doing an NFC North sub battle through the entirety of February, and we've already made up some great ground, okay? Last time we looked at this, we were in third, right behind Vikings now. We've passed Vikings now, and we're only behind Bears now by 7 subscribers. So if you want to run the NFC North right here on this channel, make sure to hit that sub button. Before we get into any of the draft picks, let's look at where the Packers are picking at this year. They got the 23 overall pick in round 1, then 55 in round 2. Round 3 and 4 goes 87, 123. And then you go to 5, 6, 7, and it's 160, 199, 2 7th-round picks, or 2 7th-round picks at number 239, number 251. One of those is a compensatory draft pick. So I go into this draft thinking and saying that Green Bay has 3 massive needs they'll need to satisfy, they'll need to look at going into April. Number 1, I think it's pass rusher. Number 2, I think it's cornerback. And number 3, I think it's wide receiver, okay? When BG, when LaFleur, when everybody else is looking at this draft in April and saying, what do we need to add to take that next step in 2025, 2026, I think it's these 3 things. Good thing is, my number 1 is what they address right off the top with the number 1, round 1. Number 23rd overall pick, the Green Bay Packers select Jack Sawyer, edge rusher out of Ohio State University. He had a fantastic season. Even a better postseason, in my opinion, was a key and pivotal role in Ohio State in their quest for a national championship. 59 tackles on the year, 9 tackles for loss, 9 sacks, 64 pressures, also 3 forced fumbles and an interception. And just what he has done over the last 4 seasons at Ohio State has been incredibly impressive. But I love the jump that he's taken from one year to another when you look at the sacks and when you look at the pressures. And when you draft an edge rusher, especially in the first round, you want to see that they're trending in an upward direction from junior year to senior year, in my opinion. And we all know that this pass rush needs a little bit of a jolt, and I think that Sawyer could be that, and even more than that in 2025. You saw how important, when you watched Ohio State on their championship run, that he was to that roster, that he was to those guys, that he was to his teammates, okay? He is so much more than just a pass rusher, okay? He's a leader. He's someone that guys look up to. And I think that's what this defense needs as well, okay? They've got a ton of leaders. I know that, but it can never hurt to get another guy in a room that people like to play for, especially at such an important position. Because when you look at how they did, when you dig deep at it, right, this team was not that great when it came to getting to the passer. Pass rush win rate, they were bottom 6 in the NFL. QB pressures, quarterback pressure percentage, they were bottom half, bottom 12. Okay, that's not good enough. How you win games in January and how you win the game in February is your ability to get to the passer and disrupt the other team's quarterback. I think Jack Sawyer is a great addition and would be able to do that. Red pin time, okay? Grade it for me. What do you grade that first round pick? Number 23 overall, you get Jack Sawyer, A, B, C, D, or F. Let me know in the comment section down below. Let's look at round 2. Jayden Higgins, wide receiver at Ohio State, Iowa State, 55th overall pick for the Green Bay Packers. And Jayden Higgins had a really, really great year with Iowa State. And he did it kind of, I don't want to say being the second guy in that receiver core, but with some really good receivers in that room with him. 87 catches on 129 targets, 1,100 yards, 9 touchdowns, only 2 drops, and he's put together 2 back-to-back really good seasons since he transferred into Iowa State from Eastern Kentucky. And even if you look at his last year at Eastern Kentucky, 757 yards. And this is why I think this position could be so important at this round in this draft, is because I look at the guys you have in this room, and Jayden Reed, Romeo Doubs, Christian Watson. We've talked about this ad nauseum, okay? That none of those guys are a wide receiver 1. I don't know if Higgins could come in here and automatically be that wide receiver one, but I know he's a great fit, especially when you look at the fact that Christian Watson and his status is unknown right now for 2025. It's very unlikely, obviously, in my opinion, that he's here at the beginning of this year. I think he's going to be an early November addition as he's nursing that ACL tear. And so Higgins is a massive receiver, 6'4", over 200 pounds. I think he's a very similar type to Christian Watson. My one concern, though, is he wasn't even really wide receiver one for Iowa State. Okay? It's not like he was the definite wide receiver two. Definitely wasn't wide receiver three, but they almost had two. And when you have two wide receiver ones, you don't have a wide receiver one. Okay, so that's my only concern for him as he steps into this team where we need that next guy, that next wide receiver, to be that guy to separate himself from the rest. Let's go to round 3, ladies and gentlemen. Azareye'h Thomas, defensive back out of Florida State University, 3rd round, 87th overall pick. And Florida State had, let's just say they had quite the interesting season, and Thomas was really one of the only bright spots in that season. Okay, he had 141 yards led up. He only allowed 17 completions in 12 games, didn't allow a single touchdown, had 5 pass breakups to 1 interception, and my favorite part is the bottom of that stat right there. He allowed a quarterback rating of 50.20. Okay, and he did that on a team that, let's just be honest, frankly, wasn't very good. And with the whole AZ Thomas situation, I'm curious to see how this situation, the Jair Alexander scenario, unfolds. Because I think that could have a little bit of an effect on what this draft is and where this draft goes and where this team goes cornerback. Because if Jair Alexander is traded or if he is cut, then I think cornerback could be round 1 or 2. But if cornerback is round 3, I think AZ Thomas is great at that, I guess, at that spot in the draft. I think it's great value for that pick, almost at number 90. And what I love about these first 3 rounds, and I am the one who did the mock draft, so I'm going to pat myself on the back a little bit, but I love that you crossed off your 3 biggest needs in your first 3 picks, okay? I love that you looked at the fact that you're struggling at pass rusher, you're struggling at receiver, you're struggling at cornerback, so the top 3 rounds in the draft, in that day 2 and day 1 scenario, you just say, you know what, we're going to cover all our bases and use the last day to get everything else we need, fill in, and get some depth. Coming up, we got 4 more selections on today's show. But before we go to any of those selections, if you guys like this type of coverage, if you guys like draft and like offseason coverage, that's what we got here during the offseason on the Packers Report. So do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. Join the over 600 subscribers that we have because we're only growing. And I promise you, you want to be a part of the beginning right here on the Packers Report because the sky is the limit. Up next in this Packers mock draft, we're going wide receiver again in round 4 with Mr. Torrey Horton, wide receiver out of Colorado State. Round 4 selection, number 123 overall, and I'm really, really excited about this pick, ladies and gentlemen. You might ask me why, because he only got 353 yards and a touchdown this last year. Well, he only played 6 games. And if you look at this last 4 seasons for him in his collegiate career, either at Nevada or at Colorado State, he's been an absolute workhorse. In 2022, 2023, he combined for over 2,200 yards, combined for over 160 catches and 16 touchdowns, okay? And I believe that at that value and at that round in the draft, he's got the potential to be the steal of the draft. I think if he didn't have that knee injury, you're not going to get him at round 4. I think he goes much earlier just with what he's been able to do in his career and the workhorse that he's been for Colorado State. Now, he does struggle with drops from time to time. I think you saw in the 2022 season, he had 8 total drops. That's definitely something he needs to work on, okay? But his speed, his size, his route running, and his catch radius, I think is something you can't pass on in that round. You let me know, what is the Packers' biggest position of need? We've talked a lot about this on today's episode and really since this channel has gotten going over the past couple weeks, but I want to hear from you guys. Y'all let me know, comment section down below. Let's go to the next round, shall we? Round 5, pick number 160. We're going to take Seth McLaughlin, center out of Ohio State University, pick number 160. And Seth has kind of had an up and down collegiate career, okay? If you remember him, he was the center at Alabama that had the, let's just say, he had some trouble snapping the ball to Jalen Milroe in some pretty key times in that Rose Bowl, okay? And then he went on to tear his Achilles in November of this last year. But I do think at this round and in round 5, at that pick, I think you could get great value of a guy of his caliber, okay? He's played in 34 games. He's had 34 starts, in his 5-year collegiate career. You're not going to find a guy at that position that is as tenured, that is as veteran, that could come in year one into an NFL room and really already be up to speed. Now, it's going to be interesting to see how that Achilles heals, right? It's very unlikely he will play in year one, and he would play next year. It's most likely a draft him, develop him for a year, and then just kind of see where he's at after that with his rehab. But still, I think him at round 5, I think he's a guy, if he wouldn't have gotten hurt, would have been a second or third round pick. Let's go to round 6. We're going defensive lineman, interior defensive lineman, Ja'Marr Caldwell, out of the University of Oregon, round 6, pick 199. And when you look at the depth chart for Green Bay and that interior defensive line, TJ Slayton, Kenny Clark, Devontae Wyatt, those guys are all really, really solid guys, okay? But are any of them going to jump off the page at you? I would say no. But the thing about Ja'Marr Caldwell is I wouldn't say he does either, especially when you look at this last year, right? 29 tackles, 0 sacks, and 1 forced fumble. He's had a pretty good collegiate career. He's trended downward over the last couple of years, unfortunately. But when you look at the depth that you already have at the defensive tackle position, I think he could fit right in there in that and be a solid rotational guy. If you're not going to have any stars on the interior of that defensive line, it's almost better to just say, okay, we're going to get a bunch of guys who are good at football, who are good, not great, and we're just going to rotate them in and out, and they're always going to be fresh. They're always going to be ready to roll. They're always going to be feeling good. I think Ja'Marr Caldwell could be a great rotational guy, a great depth piece in that interior defensive line. Let's go to round number 7 in this mock draft. We're only doing 7 picks, 7 rounds. They don't have the compensatory draft pick in there yet. And so with the final pick of the draft for Green Bay, we're going to go Raheem Rocket Sanders, running back out of South Carolina at 251. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm not going to lie to you. I love Rocket Sanders, okay? I love what he was able to do in Arkansas. I love what he did in his 1 year at South Carolina. And when you look at that 2022 year, okay, he played a full season with the Hogs, got 222 carries, 1,400 yards, 10 touchdowns. And then last year with South Carolina, right? 11 tuds on 881 yards. I genuinely, kind of biased because I really do like Rocket Sanders, I think this might be my favorite pick of the entire draft, okay? I think that Rocket Sanders has a really, really high ceiling and really good potential to be a great pro. Okay, he runs a little bit high for my liking. He's a little bit on the bigger side as in height-wise, weight-wise, than I think running backs are trending towards and have been in the NFL in the past couple of years. He does run, like I said, a little Walter Payton-ish, right? A little high. But I think he'd be a great contrast with Josh Jacobs. And after that 4-year contract is up, and after Josh Jacobs has 3 more years on his legs and on his body, I think Raheem Sanders might be able to come in and be this team's RB1 if he takes a couple of years to develop, learn the system, and play behind Josh Jacobs, be that 1-2 punch for just a little bit. So there we go. There's our 2025 NFL draft laid out perfectly for you guys. Round 1 from Jack Sawyer all the way to round 7 with Rocket Sanders. And I want you guys to do something for me. Rate our first Packers mock draft right here on the channel. 1 to 10. 1 meaning you hated it. 10 meaning you loved it. Let me know in the comment section. And while you're in that comment section, make sure to hit that subscribe button to join us for the best offseason coverage on the Green and Gold.